Hello there, friends. Welcome to Drawing a Human Nose in Oil Pastel. My name is Diane. Thank you so much for joining me today, and let's get to it. So before we get on to the drawing, I'm just going to walk you through the materials you'll need for this short class. You'll need a pencil and eraser, a set of oil pastels. Really, the more variety you have, the easier this class will be. But if you would like to limit your palette of oil pastels, you will create for yourself an educational opportunity where you have to kind of mix colors in order to create other colors. For example, if you don't have a pink and you want to create pink, you would use red and white and probably maybe a little bit of purple or orange, depending on the quality of the pink you want. So you can choose to do that, or you can just have a larger set of oil pastels like I have, or even bigger. You need a piece of paper to draw on, something suitable for oil pastel, and you need the reference photo we're going to be drawing from. Painting, not photo. This painting is by William Clark Wantner. It's called Cyrene, or it's a detail of the painting Cyrene, done in the 20th century, oil on canvas. You'll see all that information on the bottom of your screen. So you can pause the video, take down the information, internet search it, download it, print it out, preferably on photo paper if you have it, and preferably zoomed in so you can really focus on the nose. If you don't have photo paper, use copy paper, or some people choose to just copy it off their screen. Whatever works for you will be fine. So we're going to start by just drawing a loose outline of the nose. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of break it down anatomically. So at the end of everybody's nose is a ball. You can picture it like picture a three-dimensional ball, like a ball bearing, and just draw it as big as you want it to be, keeping in mind that this is the tip of the nose only, so the rest of the nose is going to make the shape bigger. So I've got that, and then from there we're going to put the sides of the nose on. So for that, if let's just imagine that's the ball bearing you just drew. What you're going to do is draw a couple lines going up the side like that. This one will be a little bit more curved, but we're going to use our pencil to figure out what direction these lines go. So I'm putting my pencil right next to the edge of, not the nostril, but the edge of the ball shape, and just seeing what direction my pencil points, and then moving it over and laying it down next to my ball and noticing it goes about up to there. So from there, it's going to slope down a little bit and go out to the ball, something like that. And then the other side pretty much goes straight up. And her head is a little bit tilted and she is looking to the side, so the nose is not going to be perfectly centered. So it's going to do something like that, just a very gentle curve right there. And then the nostrils, we're actually going to extend some angle lines out from the side. So if you go from the edge of the ball out, we're going to measure these angles here. If you imagine the nostrils are right down here, we're going to measure the angle of the edge of the nostrils. So I'm looking at using my pencil to kind of measure the direction. That nostril looks like it goes out to about there. And this nostril, sorry, not out to there, but points in this general direction. And then we're going to draw the base of the nose right where the nose attaches to the face, underneath the nostrils. So I'm just looking at the space there between here and the base of the ball, and it looks like that space is about half the height of the ball itself, if I'm imagining the ball there. So I'm going to visually notice how big about half of that is and go down to about here. And then lastly, I'm going to measure the angle of the base of the nose, again, right where the nose attaches to the face, using my pencil and going right through that line I just drew. So the angle is going to do something like that, it looks like. Am I doing that right? Let me double check. That looks about right. From there, we can draw the flares of the nostrils. So the left one is going to come out a little bit and really be round here until it hits that base. The right one sticks out slightly further because of the angle of her head and is slightly less round. It's a little more tucked into that corner on the right. And then from there, we can do the center of the, I think that's called the septum. I can't remember exactly, so don't quote me on that, but we are just going to draw where we see the center of the nose, which is not the center of the shape because she's looking off to the side. So the left side is going to be smaller than the right. And we're just going to start by placing that. And we can even measure it. I can use the tip of my pencil and my thumbnail to see how big the right space is compared to the left, and just see if I approximately achieve that. Actually, mine are pretty equal, so that tells me I need to move this over a little bit. Let me try that again because I do want the right to be bigger. Yep, that works. And then you can use those center lines to just craft the nostrils. You've already got these bounding shapes, so all you're doing now is copying the shape of the nostril. There's a nice amount of skin there on the flare, so this nostril is going to kind of cut in, very steep bend down to the right there, and stick up because it's shown at an angle. And the right nostril is much flatter, kind of goes something more like this. Leaves a lot of skin showing on the right though. And then kind of curls around something like that. From there, I'm just going to erase. We can get rid of the ball now. Don't need that anymore. That was just to get us in the right place. And erase the angle lines. And now go back and just adjust. So mine looks a little funky, so I'm going to change it so it doesn't look funky. Let's see, that looks okay. Get rid of the bottom edge. Don't need that anymore. And this nostril just seems to be a little low right there, so I'm going to pull it up on the right. Angle looks good. Get rid of any extra lines. And whenever you're feeling like, okay, that looks decent, you can be done. But make sure you have very light pencil lines. So go back and very lightly erase so that nothing is too dark. I'm going to leave mine a little darker than I'd like you to leave yours because I want you to be able to see my drawing. In fact, I think I went a little too far there so that you can see it. But for your purposes, erase as much as you possibly can with not erasing it entirely. So you still want to be able to see it. Okay, now we're going to get into the color. So first we're going to put a layer of off-white on. I have just a yellowy white, which I'm going to rub on the scratch paper to get the old color off because I was using it in a previous drawing. If yours is dirty, go ahead and do the same thing and just color pretty solid with the white over the bridge of the nose, over the ball of the nose, and out to the sides a bit because we're going to color some of this, just a little bit of the skin on the face so you can see how the nose rests on the face. And by the way, you can, because I didn't erase my pencil line is going to show up, but you should not be able to see that at this point. If you can see it, scrape it off, go in and erase. I'm not going to erase mine because I want you to see mine, but go ahead and erase as much as you can, and then keep coloring with the white. Hopefully you'll be able to get most of it off, but that was the whole point of erasing before you began, was trying to get it so you could barely see it. I'm going to put a little bit of white around the edge here and just kind of all over the nose, but I'm coloring very lightly. I don't want a thick layer of this color, so I'll show you of white. I'll show you with another color how hard I was pressing, something like that. So I'm not pressing hard. I'm not trying to get the whole thing covered up with white because it'll make it more difficult to layer if you do that. Second, I'm going to use kind of a peach color, which is way too bright and saturated, but it's just a good next layer. So I'm going to put it in just pretty much everywhere I don't see the brightest highlights. So on the edge here and going into the side of the nose a little bit, just not the brightest highlight in the middle. Sorry, that was the right. I think I just said left. The other left over here and going into the bridge of the nose. And again, I'm not coloring hard. I'm going to get some around the outside edge and on the base, underneath the ball. Skipping the nostrils for now because those are pretty dark. Something like that, just a light coat of a peachy color. And then I'm going to go in with a brownish gray. If you don't have a brownish gray in your kit, just use gray and then put a little bit of brown over it, and then you can go back with the gray and brown and kind of alternate as you need to. This is a great color for the main shadow. So we're going to use that to color the flare of the nostril on the left, which is very dark. And then you'll see the shadow going kind of underlining the ball and going down the center, but not quite touching the nostril. There's a little bit of a peachy reflection right there. So we're not going to go all the way to the nostril. And then it kind of cuts down into the face and becomes that shadow on the upper lip. But I'm not going to go that far. Then I'm going to do some of this brownish gray on the right nostril, the base mainly, and kind of pull it up so it underlines the ball on the right side, because it sort of vaguely does that. And at this point, you should be wondering why this looks so funky. Hopefully yours looks funky too. If it does, you're doing it right, probably. So don't worry, we are going to blend and add and subtract and adjust until it looks much more realistic. We can also put a little bit of this color kind of at the top where the nose starts to curve into the eyebrows. And barely, barely, barely down the left side. I'm not going to put any on the right side because that's the lighter side. So we've got that. And now let's go into the nostrils and put in a main color there. So those are actually pretty pink because of the light kind of shining through the flares of the nostrils. So this is going to look even weirder, but we're going to put this bright pink in as a placeholder for these nostrils. Not coloring in particularly solidly, but I am focusing on the left side of each nostril because that's the pinker side. So now we have a base color on every part of the nose, and now we're going to go back and blend and adjust. So I'm going to go in with a pink first because she has a very rosy complexion. So we're going to add some pink to these peaches and partially use it to blend a little bit, but I'm really coloring very lightly, just enough to get a presence of a hint, a whisper of pink in on this whole thing. Kind of on the bottom edge of that ball and up to the right. And then I'm going to use the dark brown, the darkest brown I have, to kind of put the, I guess I could have done this before I did the pink, but I didn't, put the darker side of the nostril in on the right of each nostril. Kind of lost my shape of the nostrils, but that's okay. This is oil pastel, so everything's a little chunkier and thicker than usual. But with the dark brown, I'm going to go in and put in the darkest shadows on the skin. So on the left lower edge of that left nostril, it's darker. I'm going to use it to emphasize the shadow by just sort of dabbing some color into it. The shadow that curves underneath the ball of the nose right there. And over here. And it may start to look a little more cohesive, but it should still look pretty funky because we haven't done any blending yet. We're just blocking in the colors. At this point, we can start to blend. So I'm going to start by blending with the whitish yellow that I began with, and I'm going to color mostly in circles over the bridge. The reason for coloring in circles is twofold. One is to kind of encourage the peaches to join hands in the middle of the nose across the bridge, also to create the round suggested form of the bridge of the nose. The other reason is to eliminate any directional lines. So we don't want verticals or horizontals or diagonals because it's contradictory to the human form. We don't want anything really harsh like that. So circular coloring lends itself to a softer form, I guess. So I'm going to do that up here too, blend those browns into the face, blend the peaches into the face, blend the pinks into the face. Same thing on the left side. And on the bottom, underneath the nostril, I need to put a little bit of peach right here where that reflection is. So I'm just using kind of a corner of the peach to almost outline the top edge of that nostril. And I don't see it so much on the left. Yeah, I don't. So I'm going to use the brownish gray to just kind of bring that shadowy part right up to the edge of the nostril here. And I'm also going to use it to blend in the dark brown that I just put in. And I lost some of my shadow here, so I'm going to put that back. And I'll use it to blend the dark brown over here as well. I'm going to wipe off some crumbs. And now we have these glaringly bright nostrils. So I'm going to use the color I just had in my hand, the brownish gray, kind of over those to just dull them down a little bit. I'm just sort of dabbing the color in because I don't want to take away the pink altogether. I just want to dull it and make it less obvious. And you can see, hopefully on yours, the form starting to take shape a little bit more here. You can just sort of go around and noodle it. Like I have this bright peach right here. I'm going to dab at that to calm it down. I have almost an outlined effect with the dark brown, so that tells me I need a little bit more dark brown on the inside of the nostril to get rid of the outline and make it look a little more blended into the shape. Something like that. Pull that shadow up on the left side there so it kind of curves up the edge of the nose. On the bottom right here, I'm going to use a little bit of peach and blend that edge into the face more so that it's not, I kind of just didn't have any face color right there. So that's a little bit better. And then the peach itself, I'm going to put into the base of the nostrils and just pull that color into the face so that it sort of disappears more seamlessly into the face, just at the very bottom edge in the center here. Coloring a little bit side to side to get those two sides to blend together a little bit more. And then I'm also feeling like I want a darker kind of presence right under the ball of the nose here. So I'm going to just dab the dark brown in to get that to show up a little bit more. And that really emphasizes the roundness of the tip. And then you just go back and noodle it as much as you want. I'm going to push my nostril up a little bit because it kind of, the brown made it sag right there. Don't like that. So I'm pressing hard with the peach to kind of force the brown up a little bit. And you can just kind of do as much as you need to do to feel comfortable and happy with it. And when you're done, you can call it a nose. And I hope you got something out of this class, enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Thanks for joining me.